Welcome everyone to the Reflections on the 12 Steps. Just a friendly announcement. This is not an AA meeting. This is just one member's view on the exact nature of the wrong as described on page 64 of the big book and the solutions contained within.
Pull me up. Yeah.
This is not a shares meeting. Those shares there will be, but actually a question and answer meeting with Paul. So Paul, do you have your book with you today?
Yes, I do.
All right. So I just flipped open the book too, and I really like this part in the doctor's opinion.
Yeah.
So I think it's Roman numeral 26. XXIV, is that 26? But it's basically the second letter after it says very truly yours, William D. Silkworth, MD.
26.
Yeah, I think so.
The doctor's opinion?
Yeah, in the doctor's opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. So it says, the physician who, at our request, gave us this letter has been kind enough to enlarge upon his views in another statement which follows. In this statement, he confirms that we who have suffered alcoholic torture must believe that the body of the alcoholic is quite as abnormal as his mind. It did not satisfy us to be told that we could not control our drinking just because we were maladjusted to life, that we were in full flight from reality, or we were outright mental defectives. These things were true to some extent, in fact, to a considerable extent with some of us, but we are sure that our bodies were sickened as well. In our belief, any picture of the alcoholic which leaves out this physical factor is incomplete. The doctor's theory that we have an allergy to alcohol interests us. As laymen, our opinion as to its soundness may, of course, mean little, but as ex-problem drinkers, we can say that his explanation makes good sense. It explains many things for which we cannot otherwise account.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Well, yeah, that was that idea that you have a physical allergy, but the problem resides in the mind. So because the problem resides in the mind, there's no wisdom about the physical allergy. If someone is allergic to strawberries, he breaks out in hives, he probably doesn't have a hard time not eating strawberries based on the consequences, yes? But the alcoholic is quite different. It gets terrible consequences and it can't seem to say no because the problem resides in the mind. Yeah. So once you trigger that craving, then basically that starts a run, whatever that means to you. Yeah. And that craving is reinforced by the mind. The mind probably triggers it and then reinforces it. Yeah. So knowing that you shouldn't drink doesn't stop you from drinking. You've crossed the line. And at this point, you don't need a doctor's solution. You need a spiritual solution. This is what they found. Yes. There's not, you can't post signs everywhere in your house. Don't eat strawberries. Yeah. Just you'll be hearing strawberry fields forever in your head. And yeah. So, and of course, because it's a pitiful, incomprehensible, demoralizing thing, we try to get an understanding of it, yeah, to make sense to our limited logic, yeah. So, and we know what self-knowledge can do. It can avail us nothing, yeah, concerning the first drink. Plenty of people know. See, I was at that point, I crossed it early, that I was willing to pay any consequence tomorrow to feel not to feel uncomfortable now. That was basically, so I was directed by the head, the craving was triggered in the body, and the principles I was living by was I wanted immediate relief from a seeming hopeless state of mind and body. I had no idea of my role in alcoholism. Yeah. I did not see that when it's a hopeless state of mind and body, that's how we're seeing it, because it says in one of the forewords, we are 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Seemingly means it appears to be true or false to us, yes? So the head convinces us of something, and then it's basically there's nothing important enough to stop us from having that drink. Yeah, that's what we look different than the heavy drinker, because as they say in the book, that a heavy drinker, if they have a sufficient enough reason to stop, they can stop. We've passed that line. Yeah. So they found after you've passed all the exits of that highway to hell, the only one is a spiritual solution. And this is what was so novel, really, and not meaning a religious solution, a spiritual solution. Maybe it will take form, take form as a formal spirit religious thing, but it's a spiritual solution. And the beautiful thing is there is a solution. So, and of course, there's been if you ever went to the Joe and Charlie things, there's some kind of how our how our chemistry reacts to alcoholism. Alcohol is like different than other people. Yeah. So when the chemistry of an alcoholic's body gets the taste of alcohol, it craves more. Yeah. So that craving seems to be unbeatable, but they found a solution which wasn't from the head or the body. It was going to be a spiritual solution. Yeah. And here we are. Yeah. The body's still here. Yeah. So you can't blame the body for your drinking, because you're still a body seemingly, and you haven't drank in 36 years. Yeah. Can't blame the craving. Yeah. Sometimes something gets triggered and there's a drive or an urge to have a drink, but you don't have it. So what's giving you a day-to-day immunity to that which used to defeat you is a spiritual condition. Now, you can look at a spiritual condition in a lot of ways as something that you can acquire or manufacture or produce by your efforts and thoughts, yeah, by strenuous discipline, meditation, this or that, or you may find that you are a spiritual condition, yeah, and you've lost a sufficient enough interest in the head and the body that you actually start thinking you're have the possibility that you're a spiritual condition. And to me, the highest form of maintenance of a spiritual condition would be a spiritual condition. Yeah. And don't you feel like that now? Are you doing a lot of maintenance to stay sober today? Some of us? Doesn't seem. It seems like it's a given that I'm sober. I don't start at a 50-50. I could be sober or not sober today. I start with a huge advantage. I'm in the habit of being sober. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not fighting or struggling with it at all. At all. It's as if the problem doesn't exist for me. When I run through a gamut of solutions, alcohol and drugs never lands on that list, ever, ever. Yeah. When terrible things have happened to my body that I never saw, it moved up to number one, having a drink. It has never happened. Yeah. So this is we're on a whole new plane, a whole new basis. Yeah. And in that new basis, we have a new attitude and new outlook. The new basis comes with a lot of accessories. Yeah. Two of them are new attitude, new outlook. Two more is new happiness and new freedom. Those are the bonus. So you get established in a new condition, a new basis, and what happens? You discover a new freedom and a new happiness. And you discover, or you become aware that somehow your attitude and outlook has changed. Yes? Are you working every day on your attitude? Maybe in the beginning you had to because you were fucking acting out at the meetings and shit. But basically, I don't have any, usually if I'm in an attitude, I don't think there's many other options. Yeah. But this gives us a whole new attitude. Yeah. A whole new outlook. And then what we have the joy of doing in groups and meetings and with sponsees is to describe what it looks like with this new attitude and new outlook. Because it's very attractive, isn't it? And a new freedom and a new happiness to inform someone that was captured in this pursuit and this bondage of self trying to get out of self every day. You now have a freedom from that. Yeah. And therefore a happiness shows up. Yeah. Wow. So you're happy being sober. Most people think it's a fucking curse or a sentence. Yeah. For all the bad things they do, they have to now stay sober. But you find out quickly you're happier when you're sober. Yeah. And your attitude obviously has changed. You're looking at what you can contribute to life. Dude, I don't get up in the morning and try to cheerlead myself into looking at what I can contribute to life. I just look at what I can do today. Yeah. 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 So you're in the habit of being sober, just like we were the habit of the other under the old employer. So yeah, the doctors, this idea that it was a disease was a big movement. Yes. Because everyone was taking the alcoholic personally. Like, why don't you fucking stop? Yeah. And once they gave it a term of the disease, it gave it some formality that people could have a little more mercy concerning the people that were suffering from alcoholism. You can't, it's hard to garner an understanding if you don't have it, because you would say, if strawberries break out in hives, if I eat them, I'm probably not going to eat strawberry. Yeah. Yeah. But they can't see it in another person. But now there's a little more tolerance and stuff. And to me, the disease was an awesome first leap. Yeah. Of me being the doer of all that crazy shit I did out there. It was the first leap. And I remember it. I was trucking around, riding a motorcycle with my friend, and he had a girlfriend. I had this lady. And we went back to his apartment, and I was about 6 months, maybe 6, 7 months sober at the time. And I hadn't even gotten to the amends, I don't think, yet. And so we walked up the stairs, and this lady, Asian lady, came by, and she had paint all over her jeans and stuff. And he said hello to her, and then she looked at me, and then we went inside. We were hanging out in his apartment. He had to go down to the bike. He forgot something. He came back and he said, hey, my neighbor wants to talk to you. And I said, all right, sure. I thought he told her I was a house painter and I was going to give her some suggestions. And she walked in the room where we were sitting and said, hello, Paul, do you remember me? And I go, no. She says, you owe me $500. Yeah. She had been one of my roommates. And when she became a roommate, I took the deposit that was supposed to go to the landlord and I spent it. Yeah. Now, you would think I would be embarrassed and try to avoid it and start squirming, but I didn't. It was amazing. I didn't. Even though there were people I wanted to impress, and that whole thing just got blown out of the water. Yeah. And I looked at her, and the first thing came out of my mouth was, you know what I did to you, I would have done to anyone, unless you could physically stop me. Yeah. And I had gotten the idea of the disease, and it had given me some relief. Yeah. Yeah. It had given me some relief, some space. And it blew my mind, because if I knew I owed her money, I would have ran out the back door. And I would never have seen my friend or my future girlfriend again. I would have avoided the whole fucking thing if I had to move out of state. Yeah, I didn't want to be brought to accountability. Yeah, because it had the pride that seemed to be enormous was very fragile. It could be cracked at all time, at any time. Yeah. And I was most of my day always trying not to have it cracked by some reality seeping in. So there I was. It was an amazing uh demonstration of recovery, and it really had a big effect on me, because then those few months going to meetings, coming out of that wilderness of being incredibly self-conscious, but and having the effect of that as being similar, just seemingly unconscious to what's going on. I started to listen to these meetings, people in the meetings, and I felt a very strong terminal uniqueness. When I sat in a room, I felt extremely different than anyone in the room. Extremely. I mean, and I almost was like putting out a vibration to stay away. Yeah. And I was completely entrenched in the belief that these thoughts were my thoughts, and no one had thoughts like mine. And no one did things like I did, and no one felt the way I felt. I believed it. If you would have had me swear on a stack of Bibles, I would have sworn. I would have sworn on it. Yeah. And as I'm sitting there every night, or whenever, how many times I went, and in the day, that fucking facade was cracked every day. And I came to a conclusion after a couple of months. How did these people get my thoughts? Or they're not my thoughts. And that was another huge leap. Yeah. So I realized we're listening to the same radio station. Yeah. It's K-Me. Yeah. Now, when I listen to K-Me, I think it's K-Paul. And when you listen to K-Me, you think it's K-Matt or Michael. But basically, it's K-Me. Yeah. And I'm sitting there, and part of the listening to it is you feel like it's very unique, and you become super personal, and therefore you can't receive any help because you don't think anyone knows what's going on in you. Yeah, it blocks you off from any possibility of getting a solution from the outside, and you're listening to the problem in the inside. It's just insane. Yeah. I remember I was in a program in the Bronx, insane place called Project Return, which you'd never want to return to when you were at the Project Return. And I was the laundry guy. That was my job. And I'd see a therapist or a counselor, and I swear to God, what he said, I could see it go over my head. Just go. Nothing was landing. It was like the plane of recovery was trying to land at Kennedy Airport here, and the tarmac was full. It just had to keep hovering. And then the hour was over, and I went to the laundry, fucking had it was really, it was I mean, insane. I mean, every time. It just there was no way, no, I had only contact with the problem. Yes. It was insane. And I split obviously in 3 months there, and then and ended up a couple of years later in a 2-year program. Yeah. And then finally, when I got to recovery, I remember I went to see Joe and Charlie's seminar, and I saw my role in things. I saw the fourth column of the inventory. It blew my mind. Yeah, when they were sharing it, I finally got there's a there's a connection to me of resenting Wendy, and I have a big role in that, which I only saw Wendy's role in it. Yeah, and then it was just the dominoes they just started to fall more and more. Yeah, as I stayed sober. Yeah, until around 6 or 7 years, uh, because I had a seat assignment. I was leading these 4-step workshops, and then new information was coming, especially around the idea of self as foreign to me. Yeah. I mean, distinctly foreign to me, as in a horror movie with the possession or whatever, or I called it like a parasitical movement. But I had a real flavor that it's not me. And that opened up a huge possibility. I can be free from it. Yeah. And it really solved the code of self can't get out of self. I realized that intimately. Yeah. I thought it was Paul trying to get out of self. I was clear that self had defeated me. And now Paul was going to get out of self, but Paul was self. I didn't realize I was identified as that which had defeated me. I did not see it. I knew something defeated it. And in recovery, they gave it the name self. And I was all there, self, self, self. But I thought Paul was a distinctly different thing than self. And it wasn't. I was the act of being identified as self. And that act of being identified self was called Paul. I had no idea. None. And I was reading how it works and everything, reading Buddhism at that point. Nothing was getting through. And then it got through. And I saw that's why they say self can't get out of self, because I'm doing the exact thing they told us is not going to work, but I keep working it because I believe I'm Paul. And Paul, being different than self, can definitely get out of self. Like Paul can leave one room and go into another room. But I didn't realize the disease has us in the act of being identified as self. Wow. Blew my mind. Yeah. Blew my mind. And then the meetings that I was running at this workshop, or being the secretary, they changed because there was all new downloads coming. I put down the pen and the paper because the inventory has been very clearly explained many, many, many times. And I started to see that the exact nature of what has defeated me is foreign to me. Therefore, I have the ability to truly be free from it. Yeah. Wow. Incredible. And from that point on, it's been that way for now 29 years of sobriety. Nothing's changed. It's been the last answer when it comes to the exact nature of the wrong. And here we are, we're here on a Thursday sharing it. Yeah. And I'd be here to an eternity of Thursdays if I could, because I have so much value in the relief it's brought about. And the problem can still be running the show in sobriety. Yeah. And therefore you'll have sobriety, but there'll be a lot of, like if you could reach 12 feet, you'll be reaching 6 feet. Yeah. You'll be bound by a very tight jacket sometimes. And you'll always be in the fear of something to occur that will it soaks into your day. Yeah. And the bondage of self doesn't have to be a huge, heavy handcuff that hurts your wrists. It can be fucking jewelry and stuff. But there's a bondage activity. And I learned a lot about the bondage activity by being relieved of it. That's actually how I learned about it. While you're wearing the bondage, it's difficult to know, to really get down to the exact nature of it and the causes and conditions, because you're in it. Yeah. But when the relief is offered and given and you start seeing it from there, it can be described. You can describe it quite clearly. Yeah. And then offer it. Offer it, because we all have the evidence of the defeat. Where the unclarity is what the hell is the defeater? Many of us are still claiming to be the defeater of ourselves. Yeah. We're walking around with guilt and shame based on something that happened while under the influence, but the guilt and shame is still alive to the day. So something must be feeding it. Yeah. And I think it's us, really. We're like an incubator, and a lot of shit like grievances and shit get to stay alive in us because it gets cooked. Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of it's reverse engineering. I just saw what I used to look from. I saw it. And then I could see the steps that were made to lead me to looking from it. Yeah. And when I fell down those steps, I could tell, yeah, I can see it now. I'm not looking from it. I'm not looking from what has defeated me. I'm seeing it. Yeah. And I think it's worthy to be passed on, literally, especially if you're a tribe member of addiction and alcoholism. Yeah. So, yep. And these got people who are trying to do the same thing, you know, figure out where unusual or whatever, just to make it seem to be. But after a while, you give up the logic of the head because it's infected with the problem. Yeah, you are. Because obviously we do such a little and so much occurs. You know, this isn't like a transactional deal. Yeah. It's basically uh you give up the requirements and the need for permission, and then life just takes care of you better, so to speak. It's not that it didn't want to take care of you before, you just wouldn't allow it to. Yeah. Because you have a belief you're wrong or you fucking need to, whatever it is, that insane shit. Yeah. And a lot of people are held in a sense of withholding without knowing it. That's a part of the bondage of self, and they're seeking permission from teachers or this, or by doing a lot of something, then they get an hour of being okay. Yeah. So they're doing a deal with the devil, so to speak, the self, to get a little by giving it a lot. Yeah. And that the payoff cost ratio is just going to get weirder and weirder. There's going to be more cost and less payoff when you're dealing with this parasite. Yeah. That's how it goes. So, yeah, you can live today as if the problem doesn't exist for you, far out. I mean, that's the pinnacle of recovery, isn't it? And then what that is being used for is to make yourself available to others and help, support them to achieve the same thing, and to, practice these principles in your affairs. And if you can't, just limit your affairs if you can for a while. Yeah. So this gives life to the 12th step. Yeah. Upon awakening, that story, but we have awakened from this fucking mental slumber by doing the 11 steps. And then the 12th step is the agenda, basically, that we adopt. Yeah. So it's nice to start at the freedom from the bondage of self. Instead of trying to get there all day, start from there. It's fucking great. Yeah, it's like, especially I'm old now. I'm retired, which I've been retired for years in a way. I never really did what usually happens, but I'm really retired pretty much now. And I don't have many make or break moments every day. It seems yeah. uh, I just I just love to see people's faces change in the Zooms. A lot of the bondage, you can see expressions of it in the facial structure, how it's held. Yeah. And then when people hear this message for a period of time, they actually change. Something drops, not their cheekbones. Don't worry about that. Something drops. And yeah, it's great. I mean, it's very, if someone was sort of, I don't know, I think there's a joy in giving joy, yeah, and there's a joy in sharing joy, yeah, and there's a joy in receiving joy, yeah. So this is truly a gospel. Hopefully it's good news to you. There is a solution, yeah, yeah, and it has nothing to do with the problem, actually, yeah. I don't want the problem to solve itself. I don't. That's a big problem. I don't want to be a super conscious self. They're very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. Yeah. Yep. All right. So thank you for the reading, Mike, and everything. I hope it's something around it.
No, you did, and I like picking out different parts of the book because to me you have such a wide range and understanding of this of what's actually going on that it helps me um to know that that there is a solution, and it's not just based on me having to fucking do something all the time. I can be kind of chilled out sometimes.
Yes, this is they didn't have long enough time to be able to talk about what it's like living in the solution for a long period. Yeah. And how what you thought you needed to do is going to change based on the condition changing. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. They only had 4 years of sobriety, the most, when the book came out, right? They started in 35 and the book came out in 39. So the
Yeah.
the oldest uh person had 4 years sobriety. So some of us here have been under this influence of sobriety for a long time now. Yeah. And we're
Yeah.
here. Hopefully we need to, a book doesn't have to be written, but it's nice to share. Like you used to always say it to people, it's not going to be the way you see it now. Yeah. Because they'd be talking about how they saw it now. And I said, that's going to change. Just show up, keep showing up. Don't get up. Don't play doctor. It's going to change. Yeah. Your sobriety a year from now isn't going to look the way you think it's going to look from a year before. It's just not, because that's what gets changed is your perceptions, your views, yeah, your opinions, yeah. The subjectiveness of the subjective experience is what gets changed. Maybe not the objectiveness of the objective event, but the subjective experience is what changes. It doesn't say your location and you're going to live on the 4th floor. It says a new attitude and a new outlook. It doesn't say a new house and a new this. Yeah. It doesn't say a new this or that. It says a new freedom and a new happiness. This is all in the subjective realm. Yeah. All. This is a subjective experience. And self has been playing the role of the subject. And so self is what's interpreting our experience. And it interprets it from its view, and we claim it to be our view. This is the bondage of self. We're all in a subjective event. Yeah. What does that mean? A hopeless state of mind and body is actually a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. It's appearing to the subject that it's hopeless. Therefore, to the subject, it is hopeless, but it's truly not hopeless. Yes. That's why people can be right in all different ways about something in a subjective experience. You can be right. I can be right. They can be right. Yeah. Because we're having a subjective experience. You may have a subjective take that this thing was the worst thing that ever happened to you. Then your subjectiveness changes and you see it as the best thing that ever happened to you. Yeah. You didn't change it on the thingness level, on the objective level. That thing that was the worst thing did not change into the best thing. It was from the subjective level that there was change. Yeah. So you override the objects or the facts of your life by the subjective interpretation. And many of our subjective interpretations is being interpreted by self. Yeah. It says it's afraid, and we say I'm afraid. It's telling the truth when resentment is noticed that it's resentment. It says that's my resentment. That's true. What's not true is that it's your resentment. But we're in the act of being identified as self. So when self feels certain a way, we seem to feel that way. When self says, I should be worried about that, you're worried about that. Yes, this is the bondage of self. We're taking its subjective interpretation as our subjective interpretation. And we need a higher power to intervene and give us a new possibility of another subjective interpretation. What's one of the difference? Looking at life and seeing what you can contribute to it. Yes, that's a change in the subjective level. Yeah. The problem resides in the mind. That's where shit's getting interpreted from. Your elbow is not interpreting things. The head is. And the interpretation of the head is infected with alcoholism. And for some of us, through and through, completely, the complete system is infected. So it is a failed system. We can't seem, as the effect of the system, we can't seem to change that. But the higher power can. And we live this way of life, and we allow and let that higher power change our subjective experience and our subjective view and our subjective attitude and outlook. Yeah. And our idea of happiness and freedom to a working formula. Yeah. By us admitting it was failed. Yes. This is the grass is still fucking green. Yeah. There's red lights at certain streets. Yeah. I put my pants, I have 2 legs, 2 arms. The objective experience stays sort of the same. It's the subjective experience it's fluctuating unbelievably. And in our case, we all seem to share a subjective experience when self is running the interpretation. Yes or no? Yes. Is there a possibility? Or dare I say, a solution? Yes, there is a solution. Yeah. Your object may not change that much. Yeah, people try to. They go to the gym the first year and they get muscle and everything like that. Fine and dandy. But what really changes is the subjectiveness. Yeah. The problem resides in the mind. That's the subjectiveness right there. The body is the object. Yeah. The same thing that you thought was the worst thing is now the best thing, hasn't changed as a thing. The police report is on the same paper, in the same file. Nothing has changed, yet your subjective experience is completely different. So which overrides which? Does the object override the subject, or does the subject override the object? The subject overrides the objects. We have a situation where a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body seems to be a hopeless state of mind and body. And if you have ever been in hopelessness, you're apt to do almost anything to get a minute or 2 relief. And so we do. Yes? Unbeknownst to us, it was a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Yeah. The problem resides in the mind. It's infected the interpretation of life. We share that interpretation, all of us, because we're looking through the same lens, which is extreme self-centeredness. Yeah. We're more familiar than we are on the objective level. Yeah. Of course, we're all things and with 2 legs and 2 arms, but on the objective level, we look different. We're taller, shorter, different color skin, everything like that, bald hair, whatever. Yes. But subjectively, we're quite similar. We've been taken over by the same system, and we're washed up on the shores of recovery. Yeah. And we realize we're an amphibian. We can live outside of that system and do quite well. Yes. Perhaps there's a better way. What is that way? Telling the truth about the trusting of finite self admit the defeat, ask for fucking help, and then you will be in the act of trusting the infinite. And that's the better way. Yeah, that way is every moment can be. Yeah. What is growth? Isn't growth just directed change? Yeah. You grew into your addiction, didn't you? I wasn't shooting heroin at 13. It was at 15 I shot heroin. Yeah. I grew into the addiction on the objective level and more on the subjective level. Yes, yes. And we've outgrown it. Yeah. And now we're growing in a people always, there's progression in the disease, there's progression in recovery also. Yes. If the disease has that reverse vacuum pulling you, there's a higher power that's pulling you the other way. And I completely believe the higher power is the stronger force in this situation. Yeah. So you want to change your subject? What? You're going to become a better self, a bigger self, a kinder self, but self all the way through? Or will you lose interest in self and gain interest in a whole new possibility with a whole new basis and a whole new attitude and outlook and freedom and happiness? Yeah. And maybe a subjective interpretation won't be as harsh as it used to be. Maybe you can travel lighter. Yeah. Yeah. But the problem resides in the mind, and it's giving you an ultra subjective experience that leads to a unique terminal uniqueness, literally. It's insane, isn't it? Yeah. You can sit in a room, 40 people every day, and it may take months to realize they have the same thoughts that you're having. And even that won't open you up to the possibility. How could they be mine if all these people have them? I've seen it. I've seen people right at the event horizon, and then the head just sucks them back. They're like, everyone sounds like me here. Everyone, and then yes, 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 and what? And then they suck back in. Yeah. So we just keep fucking repeating it every Tuesday and Thursday. Because I truly believe the higher power's gravitational pull is much stronger than the self's gravitational pull. Truly. Yeah. And we'll use the self's own weaponry to defeat it, repetition. We'll just repeat the hell out of this. I haven't changed it. We've been saying the same thing for 30 years now. That doesn't change. Someone just sent me shit that I did 15 years ago. It just sounded like the one I did yesterday. Said the exact same. I'm not transcending to the stars. I hit the ceiling, and it told me, if you don't see that, you're going to be looking from it. Yeah. So let's see it. Yeah. Are you listening and living a foreign interpretation? Yeah. Just filled up with old ideas that you never even had. They were placed in your head to support this fucking story of you. Yeah. And the results will be nil unless you let go of all those old ideas. How are you going to let go of them if you keep calling them yours? Yeah. Just lose interest. Letting go is losing interest in this condition. Yeah. Letting go, quit playing God you're not going to stop playing God. You never were playing God. Yeah. You lose interest in that which is playing God. That's quitting playing God. It's like quitting smoking. Smoking still continues, but you're quitting smoking. Playing God will continue, but you quit it. Yeah. This is the point. You lose interest in it. And now you're listening to something else. Yeah. Right underneath its fucking frequency as K-me is a broad, clear channel we can all tap into. Really. And you can hear a different sense of news than what you're fucking digesting every day now. You will. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. You know, sometimes life seems so still, and it's really cool when you're as still as life. Yeah. So I'm looking at this backyard. And I'm not looking at it as if I'm in a moving super fast train. I'm as still as the tree. Not a leaf is moving, and I'm not moving. I'm simpatico. Yeah. I can gaze at something, not just glimpse it and move to the next. I can sit there and dwell on it because I'm not going anywhere. This isn't something I did, but I have the ability to observe it. And I definitely know I'm not the source of it. That something is doing for me what I cannot do for myself. Yeah. Yeah. And also something did through me what I never would have done by myself. Talking about the old employer. Yeah. Treat the old employer just like the new employer. All gratitude to the new employer. Hey, all accountability to the old employer. Yeah, how about that? Oh, that's spiritual bypassing. No, do your fucking amends, write your inventory, make all your amends, and then go back and look at it and see if you see something else's role in things when you look at your role in things. And maybe you'll see what we all see, self's role in things. Yeah. Yeah. It's not spiritual bypassing, it's spiritual advancement in a way. Yeah. The first hurdle is necessary, taking responsibility. But the second hurdle, it turns into accountability to the exact nature of the wrong. Yeah. We need to add that on to the obstacle course. We need that second hurdle, maybe. Yeah. Or people are going to be living 45 years sober, still going to that temple of past regrets because they did something to somebody while under the influence. That's insane to me, isn't it? It's like you got to it's like money. Your money is interest and attention. You got to drop some money in the jar of past regrets. Yeah. Ah, it's like this, it was weird. I don't look at things much. And then I had to look at the bank account. And I was at the bank and they were pointing out, what is this every month? Like $10 gets taken out of your account, and it's been going on for like 5 years or something. I said, I don't know. And then they told me, and I had donated to some charity, but they made it like every month donation. I thought it was like a one-time donation, and they've been getting $10 for 5 years, something like that, which is insane without me knowing it. This is sort of like the bondage of self. You're getting sucked, things are getting sucked out of you and then put into fucking rabbit holes that don't bring any nourishment. It's just like it's almost like the head is like my dog. My dog doesn't seem like it tastes the food. It just chews it and it's gone. Yeah. This is sort of, we're taking in so much information, chewing it, but we're not getting fucking anything out of it in a lot of ways. I had to tell, yeah, I don't want to get personal, but yeah. So the bondage of self isn't, oh, I was in the crack house with my pants upside down and fucking like that. That can be one of the extreme variations. It's it's like the drip, drip, dripping of the interest and attention that could be enriching your day and others, and is actually a part of the enslavement of your day. Yeah. So you don't think it's extracting money from you now that you've not drinking? No. It's probably already adapted to sobriety. The problem. It's better than a cockroach. It can adapt pretty well. Yeah. And it will live a long time in the hopes that it can go back to the old days. Even though it isn't, it still will never give up that hope. It just keeps on keeping on. Yeah. I'm gonna get him to fucking drink. He's gonna shoot some coke at 85. Hopefully on my deathbed. That would be nice, maybe. I deserve it, the last minute. Let me have a rush finally before I pass away. I know I can still work it. No, it's yeah, it just still hangs out. So hey, anyone? uh, it's funny if you're relieved of it. It's funny as hell. It really is. It just never learns. And you, truly, self can't get out of self. It never learns. It doesn't see a failure as maybe you could do something different. It just changes the machinery, or instead of spirituality, it's drugs, and then that fails, then you go back to spirituality, and then it's I'm gonna have a baby or whatever. It's on and on. And just it gets defeated, but will never admit defeat. Yeah, it's fucking crazy. You have to admit the defeat. You have to. You cannot wait for it to admit defeat. It's not going to. You have to admit defeat. You do. Yeah. It will just keep on keeping on. How many rationalizations did you have as you took the elevator down to a new bottom? I didn't see any end in it. Yeah. I didn't. It was like that limbo thing. How low can it go? I don't want to find out. It was just, wow. Yeah. It slowly in time got worse, but the buoyancy of the head's little idea, oh, it's just me masquerading as a down and out person on the street. While I was a down and out person on the street, I'm just playing the role. I go home to my lovely what? Cardboard box. uh, it's insane. So, all right.
Hey, Paul,
Yeah.
Mike has his hand up.
All right,
Hey,
Mike.
Mike.
Sorry, I am on a fast moving train to San Diego. But I'm feeling pretty still nonetheless. So I'm on the other side of what you were talking about. Thanks, Paul, for the depth and weight of what this disease, not my disease, this
Yeah.
disease is all about, because I think I claimed that for so long. And it almost became like this Chicken Little thing. Like, I have a phenomenon of craving. I have a phenomenon of craving. And like, that was an identity in and of itself. So here's what I'm going to do about it, right? And the mental obsession takes over. And now I'm trying to figure out how to solve this through spiritual means, because that's what they told me to do. And I do believe that there is a learning curve here, that I have to do everything I can do to see there's nothing I can do. I have to go to as many meetings as possible, do the steps, get a commitment in meeting, make an effort to sponsor other people. But I had no idea that I was the one that was making this effort to enlarge my spiritual life, right? Because there's all this ownership all the way down until I'm loaded again with various lengths of sobriety, working a great program, doing 12-step groups at the Midnight Mission, sponsoring people, but had that, Clancy calls it that spring. It just kept getting tighter, and I couldn't pray or meditate my way out of that. And, crack and vodka came a calling, and I had no mental defense, of course, right? I mean, that should be painfully obvious, but it's not. It's not until it is for somebody like me. For anybody who has this at a deep level that still is trying to figure out how to stay sober, I've lost interest in staying sober. I didn't know that sounds weird, but when I was so interested in staying sober day after day, I ended up getting loaded. I've actually lost interest in like being spiritual because that was the kiss of death, obviously. Um, I don't know. I'm kind of interested in this right here. I'm interested in being of service to see what I can contribute to life. And I didn't have interest in any of that. I was interested in what I could get from you, and everything was transactional: life, relationships. I'm going down to visit my mom, who I could not stand for years, but I wrote a bunch of inventory. And she's an incredible woman, man. Like, she's coming up on 40 years. She's survived growing up in Rockaway. She calls it the Irish Riviera. I call it cirrhosis by the sea.
Irish.
Um,
It is the Irish
and
Riviera.
it really is.
I
But you said something else. You said something too about pointless and academic if I just never took the first drink. And that's what I was working on, not taking the first one. And working on that got me loaded over. And I'm talking about various lengths of sobriety. And Kurt's on here. He had 19 years. And we have similar stories. Yes, he had more time, but who gives a fuck? It wasn't about time, obviously. It was about self still trying to get out of self, or self trying to produce a spiritual experience. And it's very cunning, baffling, and powerful because I truly believe I'm having a spiritual experience as a result of what I'm doing.
Yes.
And for years now, listening to you, it's like I had to have all those experiences. Years of coming in and out, years of therapy, IOP, PHP. Oh my God, you guys, trauma workshops, inner child workshops, sober livings, like all of that was so valuable when I looked at this drinking and using career, but more importantly, the absolute failure to get out of the programming career. Failure, like there was no way I was getting out of that programming. And this isn't a spiritual bypass for people that have done this work. It truly isn't. I would say for people who haven't even done the work, maybe it's not a spiritual bypass. But I know it makes more sense to me because of all those failures, which end up being a win, like you said. Like those
Yes.
failures are a win that create a surrender that I can't fucking create. So man, seriously, like hanging out with you in Italy, and you kicked my ass that day. We had electric bikes, you guys, and my battery ran out, and I was like, oh, oh, drop the bike off, and he's just like la di da, and he's like miles ahead of me, and I'm like, okay, he told me I was gonna get whacked here, so I'm just gonna put up with this for now. But then when we got there, and this is so weird, we were talking, and I was like, I don't know why, but Paul kind of reminds me like the actions and stuff of my mother. And I was like, oh, that's weird. I don't know if that's a creepy thing or. But then I asked you your birthday, and you had the same birthday as my mother. And I don't really believe in astrology or anything, but it was just really weird because you both have that kind of that flighty thing where you're just kind of tripping around, man, and everything's kind of a pleasure. And I think that's what bothered me about my mother. She didn't take things serious enough for me. She should have been. And I wrote the inventory, and I said, isn't that crazy? Like people need to take things more seriously, like especially where I'm involved, right?
Yes. Don't tread on my feelings.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I do.
I shared long enough, but yeah, this is good, man. This is an incredible trip down here with you guys. Everybody have a great day.
Next week I'll have a wig on. Really fucking scare you. uh,
Her favorite color is purple, so see if you can round something up.
I'm colorblind, so I wear purple thinking it's blue a lot. Well, I know the Irish Riviera. Yeah. Rockaway. East Rockaway. Yeah. All right. Anyone else?
He was in Far Rockaway, Paul. Each
Yeah.
118th Street. You know
Yeah.
that area too.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I
No,
know
Paul,
that.
we don't.
Good.
Okay.
Who else? No? No one?
No, no other hands. No.
All right, well, I think it's time. I don't even know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's time.
All right, great. All right, well, let me say, oh, there was Axel. Axel was down in Pescara. We had a trippy time in Pescara. We had all these visitors. It was pretty cool. Pescara is a city in Italy. We had, well, Roman and Vlad and Barbara were there most of the time. Yeah, and then we had people coming and going, and we also adopted a guy named Claudio, and the guy owns an Italian deli there and restaurant, and has all broken toys working for him. Yeah, very good. Very nice, hard person. Yeah, it was and we didn't do anything really the whole trip, pretty much, and we all seemed to have a great time. It's pretty cool. Yeah. All right, so we got Marl. Stick with, hey, things are happening. You're working through stuff. Yeah, without working, pretty good. Yeah.
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 That's great.
Just say yes. There we go. There we go. We got Rick Rowe in Toronto. Nice to see you, Rick. Christian Lindgren. He's one of my oldest sponsees. And
Hey, Paul.
hey, I can't see you, which I take
No,
out. Maybe.
my camera's been disabled. They took one look of me and it broke. I don't know what to say.
Good, it's good, man. We've been on this little trudging the road of happy destiny for quite a while.
Yes, we have.
It's
Yes, we have.
great
I
to
was
see
your original audio engineer.
You were my original audio engineer, yes. From the first seedlings of Zen Bitch Slap, yes.
That's right. That's right.
Yep. All right, brother. See you.
Yeah, good to see you, man.
Yep. Brian, nice to see you. You're you're the youthful wave. Yes. Yeah. Rico Cruz, man of his word. Mickey, our forever greeter. We got Annette. She's outside, looking nice out there. Kathleen, she's sitting outside in Pennsylvania. Joseph, France. Jeffrey, delivering eyes and ears in Seattle. Wow. Roman Mueller, the radiator. Yes. I can tell the change of the season by Roman's background. He's at the radiator. It's cold in Germany. Miss Volkmann, she's there also, I think. Yeah. And so we got Oliver from Berlin, Mike M he's going to San Diego to see his mom. Yeah. All right. Hey, thanks everyone. It's a pleasure to hang out. And we'll be Saturday, we have a meeting, and it's all on the Zen Bitch Slap event page. It's the same, every Zoom is the same and no password. So just usually someone opens the room 10 minutes before, and then all are welcome. See you guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Paul.